Good evening, Canterbury. I'm Mike Yardley. Welcome to this extra edition of NewsMakers, and it's a show with a difference. First of all, it's a Bob and Jim free show, and we are going to talk the Christchurch Mayoralty, and it's a pleasure to welcome the field of Christchurch Mayoral candidates. They've all been invited to join us today, and we have 9 candidates with us. Rik Tindall, Peter Wakeman, Blair Anderson, Nathan Ryan, Kayne Harrison, Brad Maxwell, Paulus Telfer, Kieran Gallagher-Power and Bob Tomkins. Thank you very much for joining us. We are going to start with the clarion call to rebuild our city. What should the priorities be throughout this process? What is top of the list for you? Brad?
The first thing really is that we need to get essential services back up and running as quickly as we can, and people back into their homes and businesses.
Nathan?
Well, I think it's always been council core service, a return to that, and now more than ever, we certainly do need to get back on top.
Kayne?
Well, I think what we need to do is actually concentrate on the hardest hit residential areas and make sure that they get the help that they need.
Kieran?
Well, I think that what we need to do is to actually restore a sense of belonging to the city, so that the leaders of the city actually have a heart for the little people of the city as well as the wider community, of course.
What about for you, Bob?
Well, I think that we've gone the wrong way. I think that the areas that have been affected, we're getting into as well as we can at the moment. We've now got to have a strategic look at the long-term plan of everything, including intersections where houses and buildings have been taken out. It's a prime time now, but we cannot have that guy Athfield. He's really cocked up with our council buildings, 131 million on one building. How much is it going to cost us for 150 buildings at his prices?
I may come back to the Athfield issue in due course. Peter, what are the priorities for you in the rebuild?
Well, the first priority is not the CBD in my view, it's people who have to have homes with water. We want a safe CBD, so obviously people know whether the building's going to be there or having to be pulled down. As far as the community is concerned, in my view, cities are unsustainable, and we have to have a community where the community assets such as the power companies and Orion has cheaper power, because we're going to pay $15 GST every $100 with the $5 emissions trading scheme tax. So I think we have to get the community to have some more money in their pockets, and the council can reduce the line charges, and that way there'll be more money, because the city's only going to recover if people have money in their pockets. The government is taking away money with their increase in GST.
All right. Paulus?
The main question is that the council needs money, lots and lots of money to fix things up. I estimate $5 billion.
$5 billion?
$5 billion.
How have you come to that?
I would say 2 or 3 years they'll need $5 billion.
Although a lot of their assets are insured, right?
That's quite true, yeah, but they'll still be needing money. They still need money.
Where do you think it's going to come from?
I think it'll have to come from the taxpayer.
All right.
And I don't think the taxpayer's got any money at the moment.
Rik, priorities for you?
Yeah, the priorities are threefold, Mike. They're domestic, commercial and environmental. Domestic, the people who have lost their homes, had them damaged, they need them restored as quickly as possible, or they need alternative housing. So let's get that infrastructure back up and running so that they've got good sewage and that they have new housing prospects. The commercial, the central cities in gridlock. You've got streets like Manchester Street and Sydenham that are half blocked, and the rubble's in the streets. It needs to go immediately. We had really tough decisions about not going back to bricks where bricks are unsustainable. Let's have the commercial buildings up and running, the businesses re-established. Environmental, let's use sound, sustainable products.
Blair?
It's been said by all the candidates: people, commerce and then heritage, I think. There certainly is some big issues that we've got to confront, and I think the biggest one we're going to have to face is the availability of land for rehousing people. And that means that the question of the valuation of that land and the properties are going to be up for considerable debate, and that's going to test us over the next 3 to 10 years. We've been overvaluing our land and our buildings. It's going to make it very difficult for us to actually go through this.
In terms of the Earthquake Commission's geotech report, which still has not been publicly released, in fact, it's arguable whether the powers that be have actually received its findings yet as well. How do you think that release should occur? For example, the affected residents, should they be notified first of its findings, or should it just be one public release to one and all? Blair?
it's going to come out like it's going to come out. We have little control over this. I think that the residents need to be informed and should be informed first personally, but it's going to come out as it does. The fact that we release it on one particular day is probably as fair to everybody.
Rik?
Systems are down, so it's going to be very hard to control any media message these days, and media is the effective way to getting message out. So maybe we should just allow, put no obstacles in the way of information, just maximise the outlets of the information, make sure that there is a residential route for that information first, but have all the information out as quickly as possible.
I suppose I should clarify my question a wee bit. In terms of the decisions that are made in that report, should the affected residents have an opportunity to argue the toss as such, or be consulted before a decision comes down? How do you see it, Paulus?
Yes, I do agree with you on that one. The council must give full disclosure to people. If they don't, well, people are in the dark, you see, and you must have full disclosure.
Brad?
The residents deserve to be consulted, given the information first, even if it is by 24 hours. At least it gives them the opportunity of soaking in the information and then thinking about where they want to go in the future. Some will not want to stay in their homes, some will want to move out.
Peter?
Well, it has to be put in the contents of the background, and the background is that Environment Canterbury, about 7 years ago, I understand, wrote to the Christchurch City Council advising them that of the areas that there were problems, and the City Council, in my view, is at fault. And as far as the residents are concerned, I think this environment that we have now with the emergency laws passed by the government, we have little legal option as far as what a minister decides, and the Law Society is concerned with these emergency powers that are going on. So I think we're living in an area that we have a lot less democracy and a lot less accountability.
All right. Bob?
I think it should be people first. If you own your own house or you own your own property, then you should be told first, and it should really remain private for a week, but the general areas should be told. Like if it's Bexley, for example, then they should know the complete standing of the whole area, but for an individual property that should become part of the property file so it can be looked at later for whoever's buying it, but in the first instance it should be the people that own the properties have it.
Kieran?
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be in the first instance, it should be the people that own the properties that should be notified of the decisions. And I think that also that we should look overwhelmingly to operate under the framework of the law. Of course, Canterbury is operating under two sets of different emergency legislation right now, so that makes it a little difficult. But in the first instance, it has to be the people that are most badly affected by this.
Kayne?
There should be recourse to the courts.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everybody else here. I mean, we're saying the residents need to know first.
Yeah.
There's no reason that everybody else should know what the plan is without them being consulted and them actually saying, right, this is what we want, can we go ahead with this, and working with the local government to say, this is exactly how we want to live our lives.
Sure. Nathan?
I think the affected residents should be informed of what their options are and then go from there.
All right.
Whichever way they wanted to go.
Blair, you just mentioned recourse. Under the current situation, can you appeal an Earthquake Commission decision when it comes to the geotech engineering?
You'd have to ask a lawyer. It's complex, and there are going to be issues that are not going to be resolved just by black and white decision. And I think there needs to be recourse, and this whole emergency powers lacks integrity across that. And not because it makes it overly complex. I don't think it's helpful to muddy the waters with this obfuscation. There should be recourse to court so that then there's clarity.
All right, we'll take a break. Plenty more to come with our panellists. We'll be back in just a moment.